All right. We will call the Legislative Committee to order, and Josh Waller, Director of Policy and Government Affairs, will provide us with the legislative update.
Thank you, Chairman Snipes. Madam Chair, members of the committee, full board commissioner. Thank you for the opportunity to present the legislative update today. As we know, it's January. Like sands in the hourglass, these are the days of our something, right? So it's January. No, it's that magical time of the year for the General Assembly's back in town. Interesting way of the calendar is the board meeting is actually a little bit earlier in the month and the session's starting a little bit later. So the update's a little bit light, but we do know the full schedule. So the question they always ask when it starts is, when's it going to end? Well, we know when it ends. As of right now, it's sine die is April the 4th. Crossover day is March the 6th. And just to give you a little bit of sense to it, this is about almost as late as session can start. So people always ask, when does session start? Well, it's constitutionally, legally required the second Monday of every January. So this year, the second Monday, so last year it was the earliest. Last year was a leap year, so the first was on a Monday. So then that was the earliest start for session. Then you had the leap year that pushed it to Wednesday. So this is almost as late as session could start. And so that's why it's pushed. They followed sort of the same pattern as last year, but it pushed it into that last week, or that first week of April. You got Masters Week the next week, and then this year Easter hits later at April 20th. So that's what we have, kind of the big news thus far. We're still waiting for the House to release its committees. The Senate committees are out, and our Senate Transportation Committee chair still continues to be Chairman Dolezal, and we don't anticipate, and all the members on the Senate Transportation Committee are the same. We expect a few additional members on the House Transportation Committee, which will provide that update a little bit later once we have it. So in terms of, there was today, just heads up, the Senate Transportation Committee met very quickly to adopt their rules and also to advance an omnibus road dedication bill that had not quite made it over the finish line at the end of last session to make sure it got put in place. So they're sort of speed tracking that through the session. So in terms of what has happened thus far, we'll just turn to, on Tuesday, the chamber had its eggs and issues with the speaker, lieutenant governor, and governor speaking, kind of keynoting. And I'm not going to step on the treasurer's presentation ahead, but the governor did tease some big, important infrastructure investments in his state of the state, which is made it into the paper. So we're very thankful for that on the freight side as well as for local governments. That'll be dovetailed tomorrow with the governor's State of the State address. So then the rest of the budget information will be filled in. I know the treasurer is going to present after me to kind of provide a state of play and budget update, pending till we know the final numbers in the budget. So that's tomorrow, and then you'll have the budget week after. So they'll dig through the budget. The General Assembly will be next week, MLK week. So then we'll be on there. Transition over to the federal side. As a reminder, back in December, the Congress adopted another continuing resolution that pushed through March the 14th, added about 2.5–3 months worth of additional obligation authority to us. Again, as a reminder, whenever those CRs creep into the new calendar year, that's where you start getting into it having the potential of us having to look and potentially delay projects, lettings at least, until we get the full funding. So that's something we will be continuing to monitor. I believe the treasurer may touch on some of that as well. And then the most recent news is just within the last 30 minutes, the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, have to get that one, keep that one straight, just concluded their hearing for nominee Sean Duffy, former congressman from Wisconsin, for being U.S. DOT Secretary. I was over at the Capitol earlier. I caught the tail end of it. It was seemed a very collegial discussion. A lot of questions, mostly on how do we fund critical projects, and then I caught a question on innovative technology and the importance of innovative technology, so including eVTOLs and other things. So it was a very good bipartisan hearing, and so we look forward to the Senate. Once the new administration comes in place, the Senate's holding a lot of their hearings before the inauguration, and then they can proceed once the president is inaugurated to actually officially receive the nominations and then act on them, in some cases quickly, with some folks they're anticipating being confirmed on the Senate floor on Inauguration Day. So with that, concludes my brief update. Like I said, we're sort of that interesting place where our board meeting's earlier in the month and the session started later, so not a whole lot, but with that, I will. 11 a.m. All right, Mr. Chairman, is there any questions?
Any questions? Video stand adjourned.
Hold on. With that, we're at the Finance Committee called to order, and we've got Ms. Angela Wentworth, our treasurer, that is up and ready to do her thing.
You know what, she just stepped out.
She's gonna run to the restroom.
Oh, okay.
Probably thought Josh was talking anymore.
When she comes back in the door, she's not gonna be happy to know that we're away.
No, she's not.
She's not gonna be happy. Yeah, she's not gonna be happy.
While we're waiting, Russell, let me ask you, are you on the calendar to speak to the legislature at some point already?
So next Tuesday at 1, we'll have joint appropriations hearings, and so those are scheduled, and that would be the first thing. And again, after Angela presents the budget, and we get the budget numbers from the governor, then we'll be presenting that at 1 o'clock next Tuesday. Just while, I guess we go back to Josh's update too, next Wednesday, I will represent AASHTO and Georgia DOT testifying to Congress, to the House Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee. So we'll keep you posted on that as well. So, but as far as any other legislative items, right now nothing is scheduled for speaking to either House or Senate at Georgia, at the State House.
Thank you. Sorry, I was late to the party. All right, today what I want to do is, Eggs and Issues was yesterday, and I have a few little tidbits from that, which obviously, Kathy, you alluded to, you kind of heard already. I will talk about that at the end of the amended. But what I'd like to start off with is just kind of doing a recap for you guys, what I presented in August as our recommendation for the amended 25 and 26. And then that way, after the status state tomorrow, I'm putting together a little one-pager, and I will send it out to all of you with all the changes. All right. So as I mentioned last August, that the board approved, there's an additional estimate increase of $257.5 million that we brought into our budget recommendation. At the time, the governor requested all state agencies keep their amended 25 and 26 budgets at the current level. There's no change in the transportation trust fund fees or the transit trust fund fees. And then state general funds stay the same. On this next side, you can see that 52% of the overall budget is made up of capital projects, which is capital construction, capital maintenance, and local road admin. The next biggest piece of this bar chart is the routine maintenance program of a little over $534 million. Next is general operations, which is made up of admin, data collections, planning, program delivery, and traffic management. Next is 10% of LMIG. After that is 4% is made up of the GEO bond debt service that we have. Intermodal makes up 3%, which is the 83 million you see here, which is airport aid, rail, transit, ports. And then payments to CERTA, payments to the ATL is roughly 1% overall the budget. And then I put the freight category on here because as you recall, in the amended, we received a substantial amount of money, $500 million. But I do want to highlight that because we plan on utilizing the remainder of those funds in the amended 25 and 26 budget, and I'll kind of highlight that. All right, starting out here, there's no changes to GEO bond debt service or airport aid. We had an increase of $125 million in capital construction, and this was basically to give the department the ability to do some additional capacity for projects. In capital maintenance, you'll see the increase of $100 million, and this will help offset the inflation. As you know, y'all have heard the commissioner talk and others about how the cost per mile of resurfacing has drastically increased over the years, and which has lowered the amount of resurfacing we can do. This was put in there to help with that. In data collections, there's an additional $9,000, which helps support our required federal reporting that we have to do for the department. On the next slide, there was no change to departmental admin, but I do want to highlight in the freight program that I talked about that we would utilize roughly $61 million will be delivered in FY25 of that original $500 million in freight, and the remainder will be utilized in 26. So all the funds should be depleted by 26. There's $25.7 million that was put in our recommendation, and that's just basically truing up LMIG to 10% of the excise. No change in local roads, planning, ports, and waterways. In program delivery, there was an additional $697,000. With that additional $1.5 billion that the department received in the amended 24 budget, actually, you know, that with the increase in the funding comes the increased delivery, and so this helps with the much larger program and program delivery. On this next slide, there's no change to rail. In routine maintenance, there's an additional $5.4 million that's being brought in for increased contracting and material costs. In traffic management, there's $527,000 being put in, and this is associated with safety and technology projects. In the traffic management program, yeah, but not the additional 527 though. Transit, there's no change in the transit program, and then there's no change in payments to CERTA and payments to the ATL. Now, for those of you that attended Eggs and Issues or heard about Eggs and Issues, and it's been in the AJC, that the governor talked about an additional $250 million being put into the amended 25 budget in local roads administration, just like he did in the amended 24. And he also highlighted an additional $530 million in freight being brought in to the amended 25 budget. In the amended 24 budget, he put $500 million in. So we're very appreciative of that. And then tomorrow, I'll be excited to see what else we might have in our budget that's been put in. All right. Those are 25's recommendation. I'll move on to 26. Anybody have any questions on what we submitted for 25? Okay. In the actual fiscal year 26 recommendation, we had an estimate from the state economist at the time of $284 million in excise. The Transportation Trust Fund was increased by $10.2 million, and the Transit Trust Fund was increased by $5.6 million. As y'all know, these are really a 2-year look back for funding in these programs of collections. In state general funds, you'll see a reduction there, and this was basically due to the locomotive diesel tax, the decrease in the locomotive diesel tax due to the suspension. Here, along in the bar chart, as you can see again, roughly 52% is made up of for capital projects, which is the bulk of this bar chart. Routine maintenance was actually increased to 20% in 26. General operations stayed about the same for 11% of the overall budget, and that's admin, like I said before, data collections, planning, program delivery, and traffic management. LMIG is 10%, truing up the 10% of excise. The GEO bond debt service made up 4%. Intermodal again at $88.8 million made up 3%, and payments to CERTA and payments to the ATL stay the same at roughly 1%. And then there's freight in there again, which I mentioned previously. All right. For the 26 request, you see a reduction of 12.7 million. That's them basically truing up the debt service for our reduction in debt service. There's been no change in airport aid. In capital construction, there was an additional $119 million, and this was basically to give us the capacity to do additional projects within that program. Capital maintenance is again the increase of $110 million. This is again to offset the inflation, as I mentioned, like in 25 for the cost. Data collections, you see the $9,000 there that I mentioned. This is annualizing that in the budget for the required federal reporting. On the next slide, you'll see departmental admin. This additional $1 million that's being brought into the budget is to help with the increased IT costs and like cybersecurity for the department. I will highlight, even though there's no change in the freight, that there's roughly $273 million that's been identified in 26 to be delivered of that $500 million that we received in the freight program. That will deplete all that funding in 26. LMEG, there's $28.4 million, which is basically truing up 10% of the excise. You see there's no change in local roads, plantings, ports or waterways. And then in program delivery, you see an additional $2.6 million, which is due to those increased costs for delivering that much larger program with the addition of the $1.5 billion. In the rail program, you see the decrease here in the locomotive diesel funds, and that's, due primarily to the temporary suspensions of collections, and that's reflected there. Routine maintenance, additional $32.9 million. That's for increased contracting and material cost. Traffic management, the additional $7.9 million. This is largely for consultant services to help support the district and the TMC to streamline the review process for driveway permits and traffic control device permits. So we, as a department, can provide a much better customer service. So that those funds are going into there. In transit, the additional 4.8 is traditionally used for the transit match and to administer the urban and rural FTA funds. And then the additional 5.6 in the transit trust fund is basically based off formula distribution, which a portion of that really goes to the ATL. And then lastly on this slide is the payments to CERTA had a change of $150, which is basically a slight change in the Garvey debt service. This was what was presented to you back in August. That was approved for submission to the governor. And like I stated, I'm really excited about the additional funding and local roads, admin, and freight. And as soon as I get my hands on the budget document from the governor, I'll do a spreadsheet and send it out to all of y'all. So that way y'all can have it if you need to talk to any of your constituents about the additional funding in the budget. Any questions?
I have a question. If you can go backwards to 22, go back 2. So the change in the diesel funds and rail, the 4.8 million of rail, so it was largely from the suspension of, it seems like that's kind of high. That's closing in on 40%. Was it suspended that long?
Well, they do a 2-year look back.
Okay.
So it's over that time.
So it was over that entire,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Boswell?
Answer, the federal funding, do you anticipate that being similar to what it was last year, or do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I would say similar to it, but I need a magic 8 ball for that one.
Yeah, I got you.
Kind of
So
scenario.
we've got $2.5 billion roughly here, is that what we're dealing?
A little bit more than that. I think it was
Okay.
like 2.6, I think it was, correct?
Okay.
Something like that, Russell? Is that ringing a bell? Something like that, 2.6, 2.7?
Yeah, the issue with federal funding, we know what it is, it's just not been fully appropriated. So, in going into federal fiscal 26, we know what that should be because it's codified in the IIJA in the federal infrastructure bill, but yet Congress still has to go through the appropriations process. So we know what the level should be, it's just a matter of when do you get it.
Yeah.
Angela, you pointed out the percentage of each fund as you talked about, the budget. Are those prescribed percentages, or is it just what it happens to turn out to be?
Percentage over the actual, I do it over the total, the actual total combined for those funds. I do it over the total.
Well,
The only prescribed percentage is LMIG, codified in law, has to be between 10 and 20% of excise.
And
The
the
rest of these are sort of based on zero-based budgeting approaches.
just whatever the budget works out to be.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I didn't have a question. May I?
Mr. McMurray?
Thank you. I was just again, for a budget thing, impact, and we showed this on our slides dealing with the 2 hurricanes and the flooding in southeast Georgia. You know, we have made a request, and we're still totaling storm damage cost, which isn't over. So as the impacted areas, we're still doing debris cleanups. We believe, and we estimate at this time, that could be as much, or probably, the minimum is probably around $200 million of what that will cost, and that hits in this current budget year, and it hits in the routine maintenance category. And so that is something we've, again, talked to Office of Planning and Budget about, and the governor's staff about, you know, needing to make sure that we can recover from that budget impact. And of course, I was, again, on presenting to joint appropriations on next Tuesday at 1, they've asked us specifically to provide updates on the hurricane impacts, budgetary impacts, and then the response. So we have a good story to tell about our response and the continued response that we have to do. So I'm very encouraged that, again, the Joint Appropriations Committee and everybody's laser focus, from the governor to the House to the Senate, on, you know, what's the impact of Hurricane Helene, but let's not forget Debbie, and then southeast Georgia. You know, we had significant flooding as well that had infrastructure damage. So I just wanted to make mention of that, because it has a budget. It's not a budget presentation, but it's a budget impact. And we look forward, again, getting to see what the budget numbers are, and basically pleading our case to Joint Appropriations of why we believe we should be seeking $200 million to offset the impact to our routine maintenance budget. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Okay. Angela, thank you.
Thank you.
Finance Committee is adjourned.
Okay, at this time, I will call the Intermodal Committee to order. Today, and I believe all committee members are here, so that's good. Barely here. Today, we're going to hear from Chet Welch, and we're going to hear about our risk-based inspection and state safety oversight program, and get an update on those.
Afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, and Commissioner. I'm Chet Welch, the SSO Program Administrator from the Division of Intermodal. I will be giving an overview of the State Oversight Program. Specifically, the program's purpose. What is SSO? Its evolution, engagement, our engagement with MARTA, and additionally the risk-based inspection program, the federal mandate, and the benefits of that new program. Purpose of the GDOT SSO program is to oversee the safety of public transportation systems within state jurisdiction, specifically fixed guideway systems funded by the FTA. We provide oversight to rail transit systems. GDOT is a designated state agency to provide oversight over MARTA, which is currently the only system meeting the criteria for oversight. SSO is an FTA program, and they provide oversight of the GDOT program through monthly and quarterly meetings, annual reporting, and triennial audits. Our primary goals are to ensure safety. SSO is responsible for ensuring that public transportation systems such as trains, subways, operate safely and reliable. Oversight. SSO conducts inspections, audits, and investigations to identify and address safety concerns. Important is compliance. SSO works to ensure that transit agencies comply with all relevant federal safety guidelines. FDA certification, that's important because having a certified state safety oversight agency is a prerequisite to all FTA funding in the state. Importance, SSO plays a crucial role in enhancing safety and the reliability of public transportation systems. The timeline of state safety oversight development from the pre-49 CFR, that's a kind of a jumbled up thing, Part 660 to 659, era to the present, Part 674, regulations reflects a significant evolution in safety. Overall, the evolution of state safety oversight reflects a growing recognition of structured safety management and the need for consistent enforcement to enhance the safety of rail transit systems. Some notable achievements of the GDOT SSO during this period was being among the first to be certified by the FTA a year in advance of the 674 deadline and being in the first group of 10 to gain approval of our RBI program. The primary document that SSO oversees is MARTA's Agency Safety Plan. It is a highly collaborative operation utilizing the principles of Safety Management System, SMS, and adherence with the program standard and federal requirements. GDOT staff is currently comprised of 3 FTEs supplemented with contractor support. Safety is a 24/7 operation requiring daily communication flow between MARTA and GDOT. We conduct daily reviews of MARTA submissions, biweekly safety certification meetings on new projects, monthly corrective action monitoring meetings, and quarterly hazard management meetings to discuss performance metrics and trends. GDOT and MARTA's approach to safety is rooted in the implementation of SMS, entailing a systematic approach that recognizes safety is a complex, interconnected system. We take a risk-based approach, and the core of the SMS is identifying and prioritizing risks through hazard identification, risk assessment, and risk mitigation. Recognizing SMS is a dynamic process requiring ongoing monitoring, evaluation, and improvement of safety performance. And it is supported through data collection and analysis, incident investigation, and corrective and preventative actions. It also takes a leadership commitment. SMS approach drives results. In 2024, MARTA was recognized as the outstanding public transportation system by the American Public Transportation Association. Our most frequent engagement with MARTA is through the safety event notification, investigation, and report requirements. For example, if MARTA has a derailment event, it must notify GDOT and FTA within 2 hours of the event. A derailment is one of 9 reportable to the FDA. GDOT also receives notification on all other events reportable to FDA. All safety events must be investigated either by SSO, our program, or MARTA. Typically, SSO requires MARTA to investigate and report with SSO oversight. We also team with MARTA for joint investigations. When reporting, MARTA is to provide such information as possible in a 2-hour notification. This notification is received by telephone. GDOT reviews all 2-hour notifications details to determine if FTA notification criteria is met. This is done in anticipation of FTA investigation office requesting additional details. At 48 hours, SSO receives a preliminary report on initial findings of fact that include the rail transit vehicles involved, ongoing investigation activities, and any implemented or planned corrective actions. Every 30 days, MARTA is to submit a status report on the status of the investigation or submit the final inspection action report. Within 30 days, SSO is to approve the final report, which includes any corrective actions to be implemented or request additional clarifications from MARTA. Corrective actions include the final report. Any corrective actions that are included in the final report are logged and tracked to completion. GDOT is required to audit MARTA on a triennial basis. Through continual improvement and increased collaboration between GDOT and MARTA to meet federal safety regulations, the number of audit findings has been trending lower. In addition, the time to close audit findings has decreased from 2 years to 1 year or less. The program standard requires an investigation of qualifying events reported, for example, the derailment example. The accident investigation final reports are generated for review and approval by GDOT. For the program standard revision for 2023, the department focused on improving the criteria and priority recognition of reportable events. This helped to continually improving the quality of reports and our prescribed corrective actions. The most recent evolution of the SSO program was the bipartisan infrastructure law, the bill, mandating state safety oversight agencies like Georgia Department of Transportation to implement a risk-based inspection program for rail transit agencies they oversee. FTA Directive 22-9 was issued to Georgia and further defined the requirements for the program, stressing data-driven analysis, inspection prioritization, and ensuring the program's size and complexity are commensurate with the MARTA's operations. Development of the RBI program involved a collaborative effort with MARTA to establish policies such as system access and data sharing. GDOT SSO produced a risk-based inspection program manual as a supplement to the program standard to help guide the program. The RBI program will require staff to have technical qualifications, and the implementation of the RBI program will increase the engagement of GDOT and MARTA to successfully inspect system elements, analyze hazards, risks, and implement mitigations to stay current with federal regulations and emerging trends. This timeline begins with the issuance of the special directive by FTA in October of 2022, culminating with approval in October 2024. Gaining approval involved multiple workshops with MARTA and monthly monitoring submissions to the FTA. GDOT submitted workload assessments on how resources will be utilized to address growth of the program. A key element of the submission was the development of a technical training program demonstrating how the department would be prepared to inspect, analyze data of MARTA elements. Early in January 2024, FTA issued a final version of the program toolkit specifying how the 6 categories of the RBI program would be evaluated and improved. A final push was made to submit our self-imposed submission deadline of May 31st. Comments were received back from the FTA in September and were quickly addressed and returned to the FTA in 7 work days. 33 days later, GDOT received program approval. The RBI program is designed to yield substantial benefits, enhance safety. Prioritizing inspections based on risk ensures resources are effectively allocated, leading to a safer MARTA system. Improve compliance. The program fosters compliance with federal and state regulations, reducing the risk of penalties and sanctions. Increased public trust. A safe system enhances public confidence in MARTA's operations, attracting riders and fostering positive public perception. Reduced risk of major accidents. Proactively addressing safety concerns minimizes the likelihood of major accidents and incidents, safeguarding lives and protecting property. The GDOT RBI program demonstrates a proactive, data-driven approach to safety oversight, crucial for maintaining a safe and reliable rail transit system like MARTA. Thank you for the opportunity to present today on SSO certification, the importance of safety assurance, and our key activities, our collaborative partnership with MARTA, and the new RBI program for GDOT SSO. For additional information, SSO has a presence on the GDOT website. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Okay, I don't think so, but that was a very nice report. Thank you so much, and thank you for the hard work you do.
Okay, thank you.
This committee is now adjourned.
All righty. Madam Chair, I'll call the Program Delivery Committee to order. Hey there. And we'll ask Brian Lott from District 6, our Program Manager, to give us an update regarding the ever-long-awaited State Route 20 corridor. Thank you for being here. We look forward to it.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman, Commissioner, and members of the board. My name is Brian Lott. I'm the District 6 Program Manager in the Office of Program Delivery. I'm here today to present State Route 20 corridor from I-75 to Cumming, Georgia. Overall, State Route 20 is just over 165 miles long, starting at the Alabama state line in Floyd County and terminates at Lower Woolsey Road just southwest of Hampton in Henry County. It runs through Floyd, Bartow, Cherokee, Forsyth, Gwinnett, Walton, Rockdale, Newton, and Henry counties. With the completion of the projects we will be presenting today, State Route 20 will be a 4 to 6 lane facility from Rome and Floyd County through Bartow, Cherokee, and Forsyth counties to Lawrenceville and Gwinnett County. The overall need and purpose of the State Route 20 projects are primarily to improve congestion and reduce crash frequency and severity while accommodating future growth and development in the region. This also includes improved freight mobility. The average daily traffic for the design year on this corridor ranges from 33,000 to 54,000 cars. The improvement projects on State Route 20 that will be highlighted today extend from the east side of Cartersville to the west side of Cumming for a length of approximately 40 miles. State Route 20 will be widened from 2 lanes to a 4-lane divided roadway from I-75 in Bartow County to I-575 in Cherokee County. State Route 20 then runs concurrently with 575 for approximately 2 miles with no proposed improvements. State Route 20 then will be widened 2 lanes to 6-lane divided roadway from 575 to North Corners Parkway in Forsyth County. This portion of State Route 20 is part of the National Highway System. Excuse me, back up one here. Today's presentation will focus on the State Route 20 projects that are either under construction or in pre-construction in Bartow, Cherokee, and Forsyth counties. I will discuss these 7 projects identified in this slide in greater detail throughout the presentation. As a reminder, the cone icon represents projects that are currently under construction. Here's the list of those 7 projects located in GDOT Districts 1 and 6 and Congressional Districts 6 and 11. The projects collectively reflect a total cost of approximately $1 billion. This graph represents the significant funding investment for the 7 SR20 corridor projects previously shown grouped by Congressional District. Congressional District 6 represented by green and District 11 represented by yellow. I will now provide a brief project update from I-75 in Bartow County to 575 in Cherokee County, which is represented by PI number 7836. This section of State Route 20 is currently a 2-lane road in this section with some passing lanes. The area is rural but is quickly developing. The scope is to widen this 19.4 miles from 2 lanes to a 4-lane divided roadway. Preliminary design is in progress with environmental approval expected this year and right-of-way acquisition to begin in 2026. The project will most likely be split into smaller individual project phases for construction. These improvements will address the major performance goal, excuse me, the major performance goal of reducing crashes with the secondary benefit of addressing capacity issues. Now I'll provide you some details on improvements along this project corridor. This slide is looking east on State Route 20 at the existing condition of Bells Ferry Road at Wilderness Camp Road intersection. The side streets are currently controlled by stop signs. The proposed improvements consist of converting the Bells Ferry Wilderness Camp Road intersections to a multi-lane roundabout. We currently have 5 proposed roundabouts along this project. Continuing down the corridor to the east, we have existing Stamp Creek and Boston Creek bridges. The existing bridges were constructed in 2007. Both bridges will be retained, and parallel bridges will be constructed to the north to accommodate the additional lanes. Continuing down the corridor to the east, we have the existing intersection of State Route 20 and Brook Road and Woodall Road. This intersection is stop controlled at the side roads. This is our proposed restricted crossing U-turn or R-cut design for this intersection. We have several R-cut design intersections along this corridor. Nationally, R-cuts decreased fatal crashes by 70% and injury crashes have declined by 42%. This slide shows State Route 20 at the existing Knox Memorial Bridge looking back west along SR 20. The bridge is over the Etowah River, which is a major tributary of Lake Allatoona. The existing bridge was constructed in 1950 and will be replaced with a new 4-lane bridge. Traffic will be maintained on the existing bridge while the new bridge is constructed. The proposed bridge will be constructed to the north of the existing bridge. Lake Allatoona is owned by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and coordination is currently ongoing. This next slide shows the existing intersection where State Route 20 joins State Route 5 at a severely skewed intersection. Previous work has tied State Route 20 eastbound into a signalized intersection with SR 5, but intersection performance has shown a need for an updated solution. So a proposed multi-lane roundabout at the intersection of State Route 20 and State Route 5 will allow for better traffic movement and reduced crash severity. This picture is State Route 20 looking north toward the intersection of State Route 140. State Route 20 currently joins State Route 140 and continues east or to the right side of your picture, traveling to I-575. This combined State Route 20, State Route 140 is currently 1 lane in each direction with an extended right turn lane going north on State Route 140. This shows the proposed improvements to the intersection of State Route 20, State Route 140. The combined State Route 20-140 will be widened to a 4-lane facility between SR 5 and the Marietta Road Bridge, where it will tie into the existing 4-lane divided roadway that travels to I-575. And this is the end of Project 7836. As mentioned previously, State Route 20 runs concurrently with I-575, and so we will pick up on the other side of 575 at SR 20, which is also known as Cumming Highway, for the remaining 6 projects. The first segment of State Route 20 east of I-575 was originally a 3-lane road in this section, but is a heavily developed commercial area. The length of the project was 1 mile, and this area was extremely congested before the widening, especially during holidays and heavy shopping periods. This slide is showing the completed State Route 20 looking east towards Scott Road. Construction was open to traffic last fall. You can see the substantial commercial development in this area. What you cannot see just off to your right is the Super Target, Lowe's, and many more Canton Marketplace developments, as well as the Northside Cherokee Hospital just to our south. The next project on the corridor, PI 14131, was originally a two-lane roadway from Scott Road to Union Hill Road. The road follows a ridge line that drops off on both sides, which makes construction staging challenging. The project is under construction and is expected to be open to traffic this year. This slide is looking east down State Route 20 at the Union Hill Road, Harmony Drive intersection. You can see the grading, utility relocations, and the road construction that is taking place. This slide shows the proposed improvements at the intersection of State Route 20 at Union Hill Road, Harmony Drive. The next segment of State Route 20 is currently a two-lane road from Union Hill Road to East Cherokee Drive and is described as PI number 14132. There is a substantial commercial retail node at East Cherokee Drive. This project is currently in final design with right-of-way acquisition underway. Let for this project is anticipated for this fall. This slide shows the existing conditions of State Route 20 looking east at the East Cherokee Drive intersection. Note the large cemetery that will be avoided on the left. This slide shows the proposed improvements of State Route 20 at the East Cherokee Drive intersection. Project ID 14133 is the next segment on the SR20 corridor, and currently a two-lane roadway from East Cherokee Drive to State Route 369. This segment, in its current condition, does have some passing lanes and some improvements at the larger intersections. This project is currently in final design with right-of-way acquisition underway. Let for this project is also anticipated for this fall. This slide shows the State Route 20 existing conditions looking northeast at the State Route 369 intersection. This slide shows State Route 20 proposed conditions looking north at the State Route 369 intersection. The intersection is not currently signalized, but will be with the proposed improvements. The next segment of State Route 20, Project ID 2862, is from State Route 369 in Cherokee County to Post Road in Forsyth County. The roadway is currently a two-lane roadway in this section with passing lanes and improvements at the larger intersections. The project just let to construction and contractor NTP is expected this month. This slide shows the State Route 20 existing condition looking northeast at the Post Road, Tribble Road intersection. Note the new public shopping center at the northeast quadrant of the intersection, or the top left of your slide. The area is developing rapidly. And this is a slide showing the State Route proposed improvements at this location. The final section of State Route 20 being presented today is currently a two-lane roadway within Forsyth County with project ID 3682. The eastern end of this project ties into the existing 5-lane section on the west side of Cumming. This segment of the corridor widening includes about a mile of 10-foot multi-use path from Spot Road Connector to south of Crestbrook Drive that will be utilized by Forsyth County to connect two divided portions of the Big Creek Greenway. This addition is called out as the Future Trail on the layout on your screen. This slide shows State Route 20 existing conditions looking east at the Friendship Circle, State Route 141 Bethelview Road intersection. You can see the project construction office at the top of this picture along with the clearing that is started. This slide shows the proposed improvements at the State Route 20 intersection with Friendship Circle, State Route 141 Bethelview Road. This project concludes by tying in our proposed 6-lane divided roadway into the existing 5-lane section at North Corners Parkway, just outside the city limits of Cumming. The delivery of these projects required a significant amount of stakeholder as well as public involvement. GDOT representatives met with many HOAs, community groups, and developers along the corridor to inform and coordinate developments. Public information open houses, or virtual public information updates, were completed in 2017 2020, 2022, and 2024. GDOT has recently updated the project corridor website with updated layouts, need and purpose statements, and planned detour routes. Our year-end count informed us that we have over 28,500 visitors to our website in 2024. The website can also be reached by visiting the Major Projects section of the GDOT website. To recap, there are 7 projects in construction or in design along State Route 20 from Cartersville to Cumming. The delivery of these projects required a significant amount of stakeholder as well as public involvement. GDOT remains committed to delivering the remaining projects with the pre-construction and construction phases in the most efficient manner possible. These projects will significantly improve capacity and operations as well as safety in the region. The projects will facilitate more efficient operations and movements for automobiles, trucks, and pedestrians. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time, and I am now happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you, Brian, for that long-awaited presentation. And before I ask if there's any questions, I just want to send my regards particularly to District 6, because I know you guys and the ladies have been working many, many years on this project, and it's glad to finally see it coming about, Commissioner. So with that, does anyone have any questions?
I have a question. Hate to do this, but can you go back to 45?
I can certainly try.
So I'm curious as to what factors would contribute to costs that are, I think on 45 it showed 2 one-mile stretches. The second one, okay, no it didn't. I misread it was 2 because you went fast. But cost per mile on that second and third one, what sort of factors? Is it timing? Is it because it was another year? But the cost per mile on that second one is $76 million, and then below it, the cost per mile, and below that, or more what we're used to seeing.
So specifically on the 9164 project, that was in a very dense commercial
Okay,
area.
so like
I think real
right-of-way
estate-
acquisition, that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I do have one question, if I can take you back to that first phase between I-75 and Canton. And you showed some intersection improvements there, which are greatly needed, but I was curious if you have a solution on here or if there is significant one for 20 and State Route 108, which is right now a signalized section. I was just curious if that will remain so or if that will be different.
Give me just a moment.
Sure. And if you don't have it readily available, maybe at some later point.
So State Route 108, also known as Fincher Road, with
Mhm.
Upper Sweetwater Trail, which is the south side of 20.
Yeah.
Currently, we have proposed as a multi-lane roundabout.
Roundabout, okay.
Yes, sir.
Good news. Anything else? Well, thank you very much for that presentation. Very good. And if there's nothing further, this committee will stand adjourned.
Thank you.
At this time, we call the Committee of the Whole to order, and our first speaker will come forward and give us some information about the use of the context study for project delivery from our environmental project manager. Jim?
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank the members of the board and the commissioner for inviting me to speak today. My name is Jim Pomfret, and I'm an assistant environmental administrator within the Office of Environmental Services. You may have heard the commissioner at the last board meeting speak about some awards our office has recently won for a cemetery context study. So today I'll be discussing cultural resources context studies, what they are, why we need them, and show some examples of ones we've completed. All of our context studies are available online if you wish to see them. I also brought a hard copy of the cemetery context, the one that won the awards. I can pass it around if you guys would like to check it out while I talk. Yeah, it's only on 600 pages. Okay, so what is a historic context? The National Register of Historic Places defines a historic context as patterns or trends in history by which specific occurrence, property, or site is understood and its meaning within history or prehistory is made clear. What is a historic context study? We're getting there. Historic context studies are reference documents that pertain to distinct periods in history relating to a common theme or historic resource type. They tell us what is important regarding certain property types, why they are important, and what characteristics they need to have to be considered eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. Why do we need these documents? Well, Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act requires federal agencies to take into account the effects of their undertakings on historic properties that are on or eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. One of the key steps in the Section 106 process is determining which historic properties in the project area are eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. Historic context can provide information to historians and archaeologists regarding certain types of historic properties and streamline their evaluations. Here are some reasons why we undertake these context studies and some of the benefits to GDOT. Context studies can streamline the environmental survey of certain historic property types by providing a guide to SMEs on what makes these properties significant and how to evaluate them in the field. They can also improve the review process with SHPO, State Historic Preservation Officer, by having a document prepared in consultation with their office that outlines how these properties should be evaluated and what makes them eligible for the National Register. This reduces disagreements with SHPO and, in turn, reduces project delays. These context studies also show GDOT's commitment to environmental stewardship by providing a valuable resource not just for professionals, but also interested members of the public. Tilling the Earth is one of GDOT's first historic context studies that we completed. It examines Georgia's farming history, identifies the types of resources associated with this history, and provides recommendations on the evaluation of these historic farms. Back in the early 2000s, we were experiencing a large number of disagreements with SHPO regarding the eligibility of these historic farms, resulting in project delays of 3 months, sometimes even longer. Evaluation of these properties posed challenges due to their size and complexity. The resulting context study was developed in coordination with SHPO, ensuring that the two agencies were in agreement on the context study. The study greatly reduced disagreements with SHPO and in turn helped streamline the environmental process. This is a common theme with all the examples I will discuss today. The ranch house context, as was the case with the farm context, was born out of a need to get on the same page with SHPO regarding evaluation of this resource type. What made this context different is that this was a new property type. The National Historic Preservation Act directs us to survey all historic properties that are 50 years or older. As a result, in the early 2000s, we began to have to evaluate homes constructed in the 50s and 60s, many of which were a ranch house style. Through collaboration with SHPO, we developed a context and evaluation guideline that, again, reduced disagreements and reduced project delays. The mining context provides a history of mining in North Georgia and also associated guidelines for evaluation. This context is unique from the prior context in that it came out of a disagreement with a landowner on a project level as opposed to a pattern of disagreements with SHPO over multiple projects. Although mining properties are a fairly rare resource type, this context has been successfully used on projects to streamline the environmental process. The Old Federal Road context study is unique in that it's not really solving a disagreement, but was more of a research project with a university. The goal of the study was to identify the original location of the federal road and determined which portions of it were eligible for the National Register. One of the deliverables of the study was a GIS layer that allows SMEs to easily identify if a portion of the federal road is within their project area and if that segment of the road is eligible for the National Register. A driving tour was also developed with this context study, allowing interested members of the public to travel the old roadway path and visit historic sites along the way, such as historic inns, Civil War battlefields, Cherokee homes, etc. The Georgia Railroad Context provides an inventory of all railroads in Georgia and determines them all to be eligible. As a contrast to earlier examples, this context isn't solving a disagreement issue, but rather helping to streamline the Section 106 process by providing an inventory of all railroads and determining them eligible for the National Register. This reduces documentation needed at the project level by eliminating the need to document these resources and determine eligibility. The streetcar context provides a statewide history of streetcars in Georgia, including period of development and locations within various cities throughout the state. This context helped GDOT navigate a challenging resource type, as most streetcar resources are buried beneath existing paved roads and are inaccessible. This makes identification and evaluation of these resources very challenging. The context solved this issue by providing a GIS layer of all historic streetcar locations and eliminated certain error lines from consideration, reducing the number of resources we need to consider. In conjunction with this study, we also developed a formal agreement with SHPO that outlined a process to close 106 during project development and a method for resource recordation during construction. The cemetery context gives a broad history of the mortuary practices in Georgia, as well as provides guidance for identification and evaluation for the National Register. Throughout the years, SHPO and GDOT had many disagreements regarding historic cemeteries. Although cemeteries are common, they are complicated due to emotional, spiritual, and historical associations. For many years, it was SHPO's stance that all cemeteries were eligible for the National Register, and this caused delays on the project level. By developing this context in collaboration with SHPO, we were able to find common ground and reduce disagreements. Here's just a list of 3 that we commonly or currently have in progress, as we're always working on these things. We have the Dixie Highway, pre-contact rock art, and 19th century rice agricultural. So these are 3 that we have in the works now. We are not the only agency in GDOT that produces contact studies. Here's just a sample of other studies conducted by other agencies in the state, including UGA, Georgia State, and the Historic Preservation Division. As mentioned at the top, we recently received 3 awards for the cemetery context. The Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation 2024 Excellence in Preservation Service Award, the National Council on Public History Award for the Outstanding Public History Project for a Large Institution Award, Georgia Historical Records Advisory Council Award for Excellence in Documenting Georgia's History, and there's 2 others that we received back in 2010 here, one for the Federal Road and another one for the Ranch House study. Thank you. Any questions?
Do we have any questions? Yes, Mr. Fossil.
Not sure it's a question, it's more of a statement, but I'm in a little different business than you're in. I'm in the real estate business. And every time we come across a piece of property that's 50 years old, they say, well, you can't do anything with it. And it's got to be determined whether it's historic or not. And everything 50 years old is not automatically historic. And,
I'm historic by that definition.
well, I'm hell of a lot more historic than you are, I can assure you. But, I mean, that's the problem we have. If once one thing becomes historic, then they say, well, we don't build anything close to it because it might. So that's the issue I have with it. If there are historic buildings, I have no problem with that, if they are truly historic.
Sure.
But a three-bedroom house built 50 years ago, there's nothing historic about it.
Yeah, just because something's historic doesn't mean you can't develop it or affect it. It's just a processual law. You just have to go through the steps.
But that's the problem. The steps take a long time, and then the
Yeah,
adjoining properties are also affected by that.
yeah, that's true, and costly.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Thank you. I have, I think, two kind of questions, both related to cemeteries. One, do you know if a single grave does that constitute a cemetery?
It constitutes, we would treat that as the same as we would treat a cemetery under the state burial law.
And if there was a project, say a road project, that really had no other choice but to go, say, near or to some degree of disturbing a grave or a cemetery, what kind of mitigation, if any, might be involved in making sure the project can stay on that track versus maintaining the integrity of a grave or a cemetery?
Sure. I think, the department, first of all, does a really good job in avoiding those types of resources on the front end, so we don't have to deal with that situation. But it does happen, and sometimes it happens. Sometimes we find out about it during construction. We didn't know something was there. So those situations are difficult, but they're, in the cemetery, in the state cemetery law, there's provisions for moving graves if you need to. It's just the process you have to go through. You have to go to the county superior court, and, describe your project and why this needs to happen, and find a place to reinter.
In the situation you just described, and not pinning you down to an exact time frame, but generally speaking, what kind of time frame might that occur over?
It can take a while, and a lot of that, might have to do with getting someone under contract to do it. We've done them in-house at GDOT. I was part of one that we did in-house, long time ago. But most of the time we're contracting that out because it's a pretty big lift. So
Half a year?
A year, at least.
Yeah, probably a year.
That's fine. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, sure.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Williams?
I applaud any entity that finds a way to streamline the SHPO process and decrease conflict, so congratulations on that. You said that these context studies were available online. Where, how would we find them?
So they're on our website, and
On the GDOT website?
yeah, it should be on there. I can get specific links if you'd like to.
I'm interested in that ranch house one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I want to say, Jim, I find this fascinating. I know it slows down our process. Being from the coast of Georgia and being from a historic area of Effingham County, I can tell you that it has slowed down several of our roads as we've gone through and found things that we did not exist, and some that we thought exist were not there. So, but I do find this fascinating. I appreciate what you do, and I certainly appreciate this report today. I think it's opened many of our eyes as to what goes on. And you've heard some of our negative points and some of our positive points today, and that's what this is all about. So I thank you very much for this presentation.
Thank you.
Now we have from our GDOT District 1 an update, and we have our engineer here with us today, and that's Jason, if you'll come forward.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, and Commissioner. Thank you for having me here today. I'm Jason Dykes, a District 1 engineer, and I'm looking forward to highlighting for you today some of the work going on in our district. District 1 is in Northeast Georgia and is currently represented on the board by Mr. Bowen, Mr. Thompson, Ms. Dunn, and Mr. Boswell. The district office is located in Gainesville. We also have 4 area offices, Area 1 also in Gainesville, Area 2 in Athens, Area 3 out in Carnesville, and Area 4 up in Cleveland. In District 1, we have 21 counties, 90 cities, 109 interstate centerline miles, 2,300 state route centerline miles, 748 bridges and counting, and 44 miles of HOV and express lanes, and a whole lot of orange barrels, probably seems like about 1 million, 83 active construction projects totaling over $1.1 billion. District 1 has 349 employees with 61 vacancies, which is about a 15% vacancy rate. We try to keep that number as low as possible. The office breakdown of positions is administration is 14, traffic operations has 27, which includes office staff and signal crews. Construction with 33, and pre-construction has 35, and maintenance, which has the majority of our labor force at 240. This year, we also had the opportunity to have 10 interns, which were able to work alongside our staff in the construction, traffic operations, and design offices. This has been a very successful program for us and has led to the eventual hiring of several former interns into careers with GDOT in various offices throughout the district and the department. Pictured here is our district maintenance crews patching and paving on State Route 9, Morrison Moore Parkway in Dahlonega. Here are a few more photos of our team in action. The photo on the left is a crew on the I-985 repairing a bridge barrier that had been damaged. As you know, it wasn't just the state routes that were impacted from the storms this past fall. The center photo is from the November flooding. Our crews are repairing a dirt road in Taylorfair County that had been completely washed out in several areas, and they were able to restore access for the residents on that road. And the photo on the right shows our crews repairing a bridge abutment washout on State Route 316 at the Gwinnett-Barrow line. The first office I'd like to discuss is our District Traffic Operations Office, led by Jonathan Peavy, our District Traffic Engineer. The numbers you see here are fiscal year 25 to date, and they have issued so far 114 access and special encroachment permits, approved 24 signal permits, and issued 47 maintenance requests. These are work orders issued to our maintenance crews for changes on the road, like additional signage and striping. And they've also performed 6 traffic engineering studies. And last but not least, those numbers you see at the bottom there are numbers that I'm really proud to see trending in the right direction, is the fatal crash reduction. These numbers are in comparison to quarter 1 and quarter 2 of last year. Quarter 1 saw a 20% decrease, and quarter 2 saw a 24% decrease. State aid, our state aid coordinator, Skip Arnhart, has been really been leading the way this year for LMIG across the state. Half local governments in D1 have already applied and been approved for LMIG for fiscal year 2025, which is about 20% more than the statewide average at this time. So far this year, we have 9 quick response projects that have been built or are currently being built, and have 7 more projects programmed for the remainder of this fiscal year, totaling an estimated $2.8 million. As you know, safety is always a priority, and the quick response program is a great tool that allows us to make safety improvements along our state highways. One of the corridors that we have identified to make systematic safety enhancements is State Route 365 in Habersham County. We have been converting the existing crossings with reduced conflict U-turn intersections, which studies have shown to significantly reduce crashes. Pictured is an R-cut that was constructed on State Route 365 at Mount Zion Road. in Habersham County, which is part of that larger initiative. We also have 2 all-system safety projects this year totaling $1.1 million. These projects include shoulder widening, signage, and striping on local roads. Next is the District Utilities Office, which is, up until December, was led by Yolanda Pride Foster, who just moved to District 7 to be their District Utilities Manager. So good luck to Yolanda in her new role. This past fall, our Utilities Office changed to a new program for their online permitting system, but that has not slowed them down any. So far this year, they have approved 203 utility permits. For our projects still in the plan development phase, they've had 23 first submission plans and 12 second submission plans, and certified 14 projects for utility relocations. This leads me to our district pre-construction office, led by Justin Lott, our district pre-construction engineer. He oversees the district design, right-of-way, and survey offices. The district design office has been busy designing several projects, including an interchange project on State Route 365 at Howard Road, State Route 105 widening in Habersham County, the State Route 365 R-Cut projects, and various other bridge replacements and operational improvements and quick response projects. The district right-of-way office has also been busy closing on 119 parcels in the first 2 quarters. The survey office has mapped 162 acres of DTM topographic survey, surveyed 1 pond, performed 7 consultant checks, staked 4 bridges, and 11 miles of right-of-way staking. I'd like to now go over a few projects that we have coming in the next year or so. The first one you see here is the Post Road widening project in Forsyth County. The $54 million project consists of widening Post Road from State Route 9 to Kelly Mill Road to 2 lanes in each direction with a raised median. This 3.6-mile long project is located west of the city of Cumming and is scheduled to let in April of next year. The next project is a Hall County project that is, as mentioned previously, is being designed by District 1 Design Office. This project will build a new interchange on State Route 365 at Howard Road, just west of the inland port in Gainesville. The innovative design reduces right-of-way impacts by utilizing a right-in, right-out configuration at the existing intersection and offsets the overpass to avoid the commercial property. And the project is scheduled to let in March at an estimated $19 million. The next upcoming project on State Route 316 in Gwinnett County, the proposed project would construct a new grade separated interchange at High Hope Road and would close the existing access to State Route 316 at Progress Center Avenue and Wimberley Way. A collector distributor system will also be constructed as part of the interchange, and a roundabout is proposed at High Hope and Hurricane Shoals Road. This project is scheduled to let in May for an estimated $152 million. The next project is located entirely within the town of Brazelton, but spans Barrow, Gwinnett, and Hall counties. We've missed Jackson by about 100 yards or so. This project will widen State Route 211 to 2 lanes in each direction with a raised median from Pinot Noir Drive to State Route 347. The let date for this project was able to be accelerated to September of this year due to the additional state general funds added to the budget. The estimated cost for this project is $31 million. I'd like to move now to the District Construction Office, led by Derek Fusco, our new District Construction Manager. This office, as I mentioned earlier, oversees 83 active construction projects and manages GDOT and consultant project staff while maintaining about a 4% engineering cost, which is among some of the lowest costs in the statewide. We have several very active corridors currently under construction throughout this district. The first one I'd like to go over is State Route 9 in Forsyth County. This corridor has 4 projects underway that began at the Fulton County line and extend to State Route 20. These projects will widen State Route 9 for over 10 miles to 2 lanes in each direction with a raised median. Widening began along the corridor in March of 2023 and is scheduled to be completed by February of 2028. Current activities on these projects include clearing, grading, and installing drainage, paving, bridge and wall construction. And in these photos, you can see the widening activities for stage construction. The photo on the left is looking north at State Route 9 at McFarland Road. And the photo on the right, with Sonia Mountain in the background, is also looking north at State Route 9 at Discovery Drive. Widening began, I just told you that. Let's see, the next corridor currently undergoing significant changes is State Route 515 in Townsend, Union counties. State Route 515 is being widened from Blairsville to Young Harris to a 4-lane median divided highway and includes a truck route around Young Harris and a trout stream restoration project. Work on the $203 million project of improvements on this route began in October of 2023 and is scheduled to be complete in 2028. Current activities are clearing, grading, bridge caissons construction, culvert extensions, and in the photo on the left, you can see the new alignment of the truck route at Young Harris. In the center, you will see a culvert being extended to accommodate the widening of 515, and then also the photo on the right shows the initial stages of clearing for the grading work necessary to widen the highway. Doesn't look a bad spot for an office. Next is the State Route 515 US 441 corridor in Rabun County. These two projects will widen State Route 441 to 2 lanes in each direction with a raised median from Clayton to Mountain City and then from Dillard to the North Carolina line. These projects began just this past August and are scheduled to be complete in October of 2028. Work is just getting underway on these $147 million projects. Current activities include clearing and installing erosion control devices. And the photo is the widening at the renowned Rabun Gap School, which you can see on the right side of the picture. As you know, State Route 316 is another corridor that is in various stages of significant change. One of those is at Cedars Road. This 0.67 mile long, $8.5 million project includes on and off ramps that will connect the northern segment of Cedars Road and cul-de-sac Cedars at the railroad on the southern segment. This project was designed to dovetail into the previously mentioned interchange at High Hope Road, and work began on this project in May of 2024 and is scheduled to be complete this coming May. The construction of 4 walls has been completed on the project, and in the coming weeks you will see a temporary barrier going up on State Route 316 westbound for the construction of the on and off ramps. In the photo on the right, or excuse me, on the left, you can see the closed southern segment of Cedars Road and the future location of the westbound on and off ramps. The final project I'd like to update you on is State Route 211, which is another corridor that will see work in the coming months and years to the north and south of this location. This project is widening State Route 211 to a 4-lane divided highway with a raised median from I-85 northbound ramps to Pinot Noir Drive in Barrow County. Work began on this $27 million project in January of 2023 and is scheduled to be complete in March of 2026. Current work activities include bridge construction, constructing curb and gutter, pouring concrete on the I-85 southbound off-ramp. And in the photo on the left, you're looking south on State Route 211 at the bridge widening over I-85. In the right-hand photo, you will see that the first 2 multi-lane roundabouts that are actually in our district being constructed as part of the project. The roundabout in the foreground is at the I-85 southbound off-ramps, or off and on ramps, and the one in the further back is at Chateau Alon Tour de France Drive. The next office I'd like to highlight is our maintenance office, led by our district maintenance manager, Natasha Davis. This office has had a very busy year so far with emergency hurricane and flooding response in South Georgia, in addition to their normal maintenance activity schedule. So far this year, we've issued ITB contracts for pavement preservation, vegetation management, and sound wall repair for a total of $5.9 million. We've also issued $3.5 million in service contracts for guardrail repair, drain cleaning, routine maintenance, custodial, and waste disposal. Our district maintenance crews have also been busy performing $2 million in asphalt work, $500,000 in concrete repairs, $600,000 in signage and striping, and completing those 47 maintenance requests issued from traffic operations mentioned earlier. This past fall, we activated 55 of our employees in response to the restoration and cleanup efforts after Hurricane Helene, including 2 signal crews. We also later deployed two-person crews to Telfair and Candler counties after the flooding in November, where they worked to repair several county roads that had been severely damaged. These crews spent weeks away from their homes and families and working long hours with never a complaint, and most volunteering to go back. I'd like to take a moment just to thank them and express my appreciation for their dedication and hard work. Speaking of hard work, the photo on the right is of our new brine plant and training facility located just off of I-85 northbound in Franklin County. This facility was completed this past fall at the site of an old rest area and was built almost entirely by district personnel. This facility saw its first winter storm this past weekend and supplied thousands of gallons of brine to pre-treat our roads prior to the storm. I have no doubt that this facility will help us be able to respond better to winter weather for many years to come. I want to finish today with a photo from our District 1 Philanthropic Committee. Not everyone can get behind the wheel of a piece of equipment, but everyone can do something to contribute and help those in need. The committee collected supplies from across the district and were delivered to families in need in the Augusta area. It's times like these when you truly get to see the servant's heart and character of the employees we have, not just in District 1, but at GDOT as a whole. I'd like to thank you for your time this afternoon and allowing me to tell you about some of the things we have going on in District 1.
Jason, we're very proud that you were able to be with us today and bring us up on an update as to regards to what District 1 has done. We certainly praise all districts because it takes a full team, and you had certainly illustrated that today in your report of how our teams come together as partners when any disaster might come about and when good things come about. And we're very appreciative of that. Do we have anyone that has a question or would like to make a statement? Yes.
I want to thank Jason for what he does. I know he's been busy lately.
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Yeah, thank you a lot.
Yes, Emily?
Yes, and I'd like to thank Jason just for stepping up to the plate when we needed you to. That has meant a lot to everybody, and it's much appreciated.
Thank you,
Boyd?
And I too, as my district engineer, thank you for all your hard work and commitment to your district as well as the whole state. And you have filled in, and you took it over, and you've done a great job, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you, Jason, for being here today. We certainly appreciate it. If there's any other business for our committee as a whole, seeing none, committee will be adjourned. Also, remember tomorrow at 9 a.m., our board will come into session at that time. Look forward to seeing you. Bye-bye.